हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आवर चैनल। और आज का जो हम टॉपिक डिस्कस करेंगे, हम गांधी की फिलोसफी की बात करेंगे और हम बहुत डिटेल में हम स्वराज की बात करेंगे। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। बिफोर दैट वी हैव यूपीएससी सीएससी सब्सक्रिप्शन प्राइस हाइक रिमाइंडर, and the price date has been extended due to a multiple reason made by a lot of people. So the price after 24th will increase, and the prices are from 8,000 to 9,000, from 20,000 to 22,500, from 36,000 to 40,500, from 44,000 to 49,500, from 64,000 to 72,000. And you can get your subscription for your 10% discount by simply using our code Simplet, and you can get 10% discount. And Academy Aspire is providing you with the all India free mock test for the civil servant aspirant under UPSC CSE Prelims 2021 paper 1 JS, and it will be conducted on every 10th and 25th of every month. We have exciting prizes and scholarship for top 50 rank holders, and it will be conducted on the 25th October at 10 a.m. sharp, so you can enroll now. An Academy full-length mains mock paper GCM 4 on ethics for UPSC CSE has been scheduled, and we have free live special classes for the students, and it will be conducted on 25th October at 9 p.m. sharp, so you can enroll for this class. We have special batches for UPSC CSE Mains Preparation 2020. We have advanced batch course for UPSC CSE Mains, that is in bilingual, and it has started from 19th October. We have advanced batch course that is from UPSC CSE Mains of Hindi, that has also like started from 14th October, and we have advanced batch course for UPSC CSE Mains 2020 English, that is also started from 14th October. So you can enroll now for these special batches. UPSC CSE complete batch preparation course has already started from 19th October, and it will be started from 26th October respectively. We have 4 batches. The first batch is in bilingual, in which the medium of instruction is in Hindi English both. The second one is in Hindi completely. The third one is in English, and the fourth one is the Mission 2022 2-year batch course for UPSC CSE. This one subscription has like unlimited benefits, like you can learn from your home. We have unlimited access to all courses, top educators of India on one platform, full syllabus coverage, double doubt clearing session, live test series, study material will be provided to you in the form of PDF format, answer writing sessions, and it will be done under a mentor and guidance. So this is also one-stop solution for your complete UPSC CSE preparation, because your structured batches with top educators, batches in Hindi English bilingual, late night as well as 2-year batches, 100% syllabus coverage, vast range of optionals, prelims test series with evaluation, main test series with evaluation. You have dedicated doubt clearing classes also, daily current affair practice, essay and answer writing practice. Along with that, we have performance analysis also of every individuals, and we will also prepare you for the interview. So you just need to subscribe now and get 10% off. You just need to simply apply this code and get 10% off. So we have T20 daily current affair test series that is completely free, and we have from daily 7:30 p.m. we have 20 questions for 20 minutes, and it will consist of 40 marks each. And along with that, we have your test analysis also. So if you really like our channel, then you can click to join on YouTube, Telegram, and Facebook. So let's start with our topic. So as we know that the Mahatma Gandhi was also known as the Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He was like one of the most prominent moral and the political philosopher and the social reformer of modern Indian political thought. So we can see he was a pioneer of the India's national independence movement by the means of a new and alternative political discourse, and he had a very different approach from the moderate and extremists. He identified his own pathway, that was the non-violence, which means ahimsa and satyagraha. So according to Bhikkhu Parekh, he was significantly like observed that he evolved a new language of political discourse and a simple and austere life as a way of identifying himself with the poorest countrymen. So Gandhi wrote extensively on the Indian opinion, Young India, and the Harijan. So the leading newspapers of that era, as we know, were that he commented on the issues of the contemporary relevance. So according to Vidyut Chakravarti, that Gandhi was very different from all the nationalist colleagues. First, that was evident when he launched his satyagraha movements in the remote areas of Champaran, Khera, and Ahmedabad instead of the presidency towns, because that was so far remained the hub of the nationalist activities. So he wanted to actually make the grassroots make people aware at the grassroots about their own rights, about the exploitation, and how they can actually raise their own voice. So his political strategies also brought a very radical changes in the Congress that has now expanded its sphere influences even in the village, because before that it was only there in the towns. So now let's come on to the ends and the means. So as we know, Mahatma Gandhi rightly said that unlike Kautilya and other preachers of Mahabharat, he does not approve the use of unjust means under any circumstances. Gandhi believes in purity of means as well as ends. So यहाँ पे जो गांधी जी ने बहुत क्लियरली बोला है कि हमें कोई भी अनजस्ट वे या फिर हमें पाथ यूज नहीं करना है, चाहे कोई भी सर्कमस्टांसेस हो या फिर कोई हमारे साथ बुरा कर रहा है तो हमें भी बुरा वाला पाथ अपनाना है। तो उसने बिलीव ये सिंपली करा है कि जो प्योरिटी ऑफ मीन्स है, मतलब हम अगर पाथ हमारा बहुत प्योर है, सेक्रेड है, तो हमारे जो एंड्स होंगे वो भी हमें उसके ऐसे फ्रूट्स मिलेंगे। So Gandhi argued that only the right means should be like adopted for the right ends, and Gandhi was convinced that if we actually take care of our own means, and then end will be take care of itself. So the ends and the means are basically compared to the seeds of the tree and the tree. So only the right type of seed can grow this into right type of tree. So गांधी ने यहाँ पे ये बोला है कि हमारा जो अगर हम राइट करेंगे तो हमें हमेशा क्या होगा कि अगर हम राइट मीन्स हम कोई भी राइट मीन अपनाएंगे तो हमें क्या होगा कि हमें उसका हमेशा राइट एंड ही मिलेगा, हमें कभी उसका नेगेटिव हमें एंड नहीं मिलेगा और नेगेटिव आउटपुट नहीं मिलेगा। और गांधी ने ये ऐसे बोला है, एक हमें एग्जाम्पल देके सीड से लेके और ट्री से लेके, तो उसने कहा है कि जब अगर हम राइट टाइप ऑफ सीड हम एक्चुअली सो करेंगे तो हमारा जो आउटपुट निकलेगा वो द राइट टाइप ऑफ ट्री होगी। तो उसने इसलिए कहा है कि हमें हमेशा अपने जो राइट मीन्स अपनाने चाहिए अपने लाइफ में, ताकि उससे हमारे क्या हो, हमें हमेशा राइट आउटपुट मिले। So means and the end, as we know, are the two sides of the same coin. So the immoral means that we adopt, like if we adopt anything like this, which are vitiate and the entire process as well as the end itself. So Gandhi adopted his own path of satyagraha, which means the reliance on the force of the truth. So he wanted to achieve the goal of Swaraj through independence, because this was a path which was very sacred and its destination was also very beautiful. So Satyagraha involved the practice of ahimsa, which as we all know it means non-violence, and which embodied on the right course of action. So Gandhi declared that for me ahimsa comes before Swaraj. अब हम पहले हमें नॉन वायलेंस पे अपनाएंगे, उसके बाद हम कहेंगे स्वराज हम अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। अब गांधी के जो प्रिंसिपल थे वो क्लोज कनेक्शन है जो मीन्स और एंड्स में थे, उसके बाद उसने फर्दर लाइक रिफ्लेक्टेड हुए थे उसकी थ्योरी ऑफ रिलेशन में, ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स और एथिक्स में। अब जितने भी मॉरल फिलोसोफर्स हैं, गांधी बिलीव करते हैं कि जो एथिक्स है वो एक गाइडिंग फोर्स होते हैं सबके पीछे, हमारे जितने भी ह्यूमन बिहेवियर होते हैं, जैसे हमारे इंक्लूडिंग पॉलिटिक्स में भी। तो उसने एक्सप्रेस करा था बहुत फर्म फेथ के साथ कि जो स्पिरिचुअलाइजेशन होनी चाहिए है पॉलिटिक्स की, इसका मतलब ये है कि पॉलिटिक्स को भी इन्फॉर्म करना चाहिए कि उनके भी हाईएस्ट मॉरल, एथिकल और स्पिरिचुअल स्टैंडर्ड्स होने चाहिए, ना कि वो अनफेयर मीन्स अपना करके हमारे वो जो उनके जो एंड प्रोडक्ट है वो अनफेयर ही होंगे। So for Gandhi, the term spiritual, ethic, religious meant the same thing. So he clearly taught that the men should abstain from violence and vice and follow the proper path of virtue. So according to him, the essence of all religion is same, and all religions taught piety, compassion, self-restraint, charity towards other human beings. So he never took the concept of religion in a very narrow sense. So by religion, he says that I don't mean a formal religion or a customary religion, but he means religion that underlines all religion within one. So over here, according to Gandhi, politics should not be treated as a source of their own material gain, but as an instrument for the moral upliftment of every individual and not just a source of power over. It should be an instrument to power too. So now let's talk about Gandhi's two ways that he adopted, that was ahimsa and satyagraha. So it is, as we know, it's very crucial for us to understand Gandhi's social and political ideas, that we need to also realize the significance of two basic precepts of Gandhiism, that is mean satyagraha and ahimsa, or the non-violence. So for Gandhi, ahimsa basically meant to basically the both passive and active love. So he was refraining from causing harm, destruction to living beings as well as the positively promoting their own well-being. So he clearly suggested that the ahimsa, Gandhi did not just mean a merely like a non-injury to others, but it was a mere negative or a passive connotation. Instead, he said that ahimsa also had a positive and active meaning of love and charity. So it was clearly evident that Gandhi defined ahimsa in the two contrasting ways. One, its narrow sense, which simply meant avoidance of acts of harming others. Second, the positive sense that it denoted by promoting the well-being that was based on infinite love. So ahimsa is also has a very positive connotation, which was based on the highest moral values and epitomized by the unselfishness, self. That was according to the Bidyut Chakravarti also said that the Gandhi's experiment of Satyagraha. So ahimsa was like very crucial to him. So he not only did he just enable Gandhi to provide a very new conception of the anti-colonial politics, but it also gave him an opportunity by completely avoiding the all in feelings towards those opposition. सो अहिंसा बहुत ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री है जो गांधी के मॉडल ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन है. तो जो इंटायर सर्टेनली उनका जो ना मोस्ट ओरिजिनल और क्रिएटिव मॉडल है सोशल चेंज का, पॉलिटिकल एक्शन का, और जितने भी उनके एडवर्स सर्कमस्टांसेस रहे हैं. अब जो यहाँ पे थ्योरी ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स है उन्हें बहुत ही ग्रेजुअली वो एक्चुअली बहुत डोमिनेंट आइडियोलॉजी हो गई थी नेशनल पॉलिटिकल मूवमेंट के टाइम, जिसमें गांधी ने बताया कि तो रीगेन है सुप्रीम से. अब जो सत्याग्रह है उसमें पता उसका मतलब है रेजिस्टेंस, और ये जस्ट एक पैसिव रेजिस्टेंस नहीं होगा बट एक इंटेंस एक्टिविटी होगी जिसमें जो लोग हैं और ये जो सत्याग्रह है वो लोग अडॉप्ट करेंगे. तो इसमें मतलब है ये कि इट्स अ वेरी लेजिटिमेट moral, truthful form of political action by the people against a brutal state power. So यहाँ पे जो मूवमेंट हम बता रहे हैं अगेंस्ट बेसिकली इनजस्टिस है जो स्टेट ने बताई है, और जो गांधी आर्ग्यू करते हैं दैट वी डोंट जस्ट हैव द डिजायर टू मेक द आर्म्ड असॉल्ट्स ऑन द एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, नॉट टू अनसीट देम टू पावर एंड नॉट जस्ट टू गेट रिड ऑफ द इनजस्टिस. तो यहाँ पे हम इन्वॉल्वमेंट देखते हैं कि जो एक्शन प्लान है इन्वॉल्व कर रहे हैं हम लार्ज मासेस ऑफ पीपल को, हम टारगेट कर रहे हैं स्टेट को, और उसके बाद जितने भी हमारे सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक इंटरेस्ट है. अब हम जितने ज्यादा लाइक लोग को ऑर्गेनाइज करेंगे सत्याग्रह के, तो हमें ये क्या एक्सपेक्टेड है कि सबका एक लेवल ऑफ अवेयरनेस हो. अब ये जितने भी अमंग पीपल हैं जो एक्चुअली लिंक करते हैं अपनी पॉवर्टी और एक्सप्लॉयटेटिव एलियन ऑफ स्टेट के साथ. अब हम आते हैं कि हमारे क्या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन प्रिंसिपल्स होने चाहिए. बेसिकली इन्होंने कहा कि जितने भी स्कीम ऑफ थिंग्स एक सत्याग्रही को पता होना चाहिए कि उसके प्रिंसिपल्स कहाँ हैं बिफोर लाइक embarking on a campaign. So he clearly mentioned that before we got involved into any of the political campaign against the ruling authority, they should thoroughly understand our deeper implications. So ahimsa was not just like a specific organizational principle that governed the behavior of satyagrahi, but it also means that ahimsa was very critical to the entire exercise of satyagraha, without which the very act of the resistance would also appear to be futile. So ahimsa was basically based on the foundational principle as well, and not only it just articulate the nature of campaign, so it would also be a structure from which the resistance was guiding to those who were involved in it. So we can see over here that the science of non-violence was in the sense that it provided a way grammar to the Gandhian political mobilization, in which we can see there were civil resistors that represents the non-violent army of the nation. Now let's talk about the conceptualizing Swaraj. So as we know, the Swaraj is a basic concept of Gandhi's political philosophy, and it is a state of being in which the individual and nation. So as an idea and strategy, we can see that Swaraj gained remarkably in the context of the nationalist articulation of the freedom of struggle, and there was a growing demand for democratization of all the political processes in the country that were already brought hitherto in the social and political marginal sections of our society. So Gandhi used the concept in a very different sense in a different context also. So we have Anthony J. Parel, who also distinguished between there are four types of Swaraj. First, the national independence. Second, political freedom of the individual. Third, economic freedom of the individual. And the fourth, the spiritual freedom of individual. That also means self-rule. So we can see the first three are the negative in character and the fourth one is a positive in its connotation. because the national independence basically means freedom from the alien rule, and political freedom means freedom from oppression, denial of our political rights to the individuals, and the economic freedom is the freedom of poverty of our individual. So the spiritual freedom is also like a positive in character, and in the sense the state of being in which everyone like tries to aspire to actualize, for the first three conditions are met. So Gandhian conception of Swaraj were also like derived from the understandings and learning of both the Western and Indian philosophy. So the Indian sources, so he derived the notion of self-rule, and the Vedanta and the yoga system deals with the ways and the means by achieving self-rule, which is also means self-realization or moksha. So now let's talk about Swaraj as a national independence. So as we know the national independence सबसे पहला जो एस्पेक्ट रहा है वो था गांधीयन स्वराज का. इसका मतलब है कि यहाँ कलेक्टिव फ्रीडम थी एलियन रूल में, और यहाँ पे कोई ऐसा ओरिजिनल एस्पेक्ट नहीं था नेशनल इंडिपेंडेंस में जो फिलोसफी ऑफ फ्रीडम है और जो ओरिजिनल क्वालिफिकेशन जो अटैच होती है विद द मीन्स ऑफ अटेनिंग इट. तो हम देखते हैं जैसे जितने भी वॉर्स और वायलेंस होते हैं वो इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं नॉन वायलेंस, और उनका एक वे ऑफ अचीविंग है इंडिपेंडेंस और स्वराज. अब जो गांधी का आइडिया ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस है वो उनका बेसिकली डिफरेंट टेक्स्ट है जो स्पीचेस, रिपोर्ट्स, मेमोज, लेटर्स में है. अब यहाँ पे मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट हम देखते हैं कि हिंद स्वराज में कि गांधी ने एक्सटेंसिवली लिखा है इस नोशन और अंडरस्टैंडिंग में स्वराज कह रहे हैं. उन्हें रिजेक्ट करा है कि जो मॉडरेट विंग होता है नेशनल मूवमेंट का उन्हें आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं इंडिपेंडेंस से with the autonomous status for like India within the British Empire, a status to be achieved through constitutional means as well as extremist view, and we need to identify like independence to be brought by any means, violent and armed or armed. So Gandhi like believed that Swaraj or the independence should mean just more than replacing the British rule with the Indian rule. So we can see that over here that otherwise there would be just a replacement of one from coercive rule to the another, as he put in basically that the English rule without the Englishmen. So the Swaraj that Gandhi wanted linked the independence with the self rule, and independence without a capacity of self rule would also mean like nothing, just more than a very strong economical and the political side. So the meaning of independence, we can see it was like articulated in the constructive program. It was a 19-point essay of Gandhi that was published in 1941. So its main argument was that without a strong and independence, without any benefit only to the upper caste and class, the civil society in India needs to be religious peace and tolerance, removal of all caste system, evil practices, small scale industries, village economy, emancipation of women, education, healthcare were basically aim of this. So he wanted to like strengthen the civil society by attaining the Purn Swaraj or the complete independence by adopting the truthful and non-violent means. So Swaraj as a political freedom of individual, as we know, according to like Anthony J. Parel, we can see that Gandhi taught that the modern world, that the life was worth of human being would not just be possible without the benefit of giving them rights. So he learned that the statutory lesson in the South Africa, to be without rights in the modern world was to be treated like something less than a human also. So though we can see Gandhi was a strong defender of rights, he defends it in his own way, for he did not accept the theory of human nature on which the Western political thought was based, that the human beings are led to the by appetites, their interests, their instrumental reasons, and they're not natural social beings but individualistic. So we can see that the rights of means by which they can like protect the individual rights, interest from the interference of others. So Gandhi's defense of freedom, we know, and the rights are basically based on their views of human nature, in which it borrows from the Indian sources. So the humans are basically like are the body of soul composites and the natural social beings. So we can say over here that the bodily existence justifies the rights, but the ethical and spiritual powers ensures that the rights of the it ensures that the rights are there within the ethics also. So he gave his own views on the human nature, and he strongly believed that the rights have to be like complemented with our duties or dharma. So now let us understand Gandhi's view that how he limits our political obligation and civil disobedience as a political right. So Gandhi saw that a state was an exploitative force, and its desire role was basically based on a moral emancipation and the moral development of all citizens. So when a state fails to like fulfill its responsibility, it actually loses its own moral authority. So he believed that in moral like individualism, all the individuals, they are basically an end in itself and who cannot be just the means of the state end. So when a state loses its own moral authority, the civil disobedience over here is justified according to him. So the civil disobedience is also known as a non-cooperation, which also we must be resorted to a protest against all the unjust policy of a government. So it means that by ensuring accountability from the state when it's come to exploitative. So now let's talk about the Swaraj as an economic freedom of the individual. So by economic freedom, we basically meant that the Gandhi meant that the freedom from poverty, and poverty was a phenomena which was very relative to a given society, and Gandhi had its own criteria of poverty. That the criteria of poverty was depend on the availability of basic necessities of life, which means food, dwelling, and a decent clothing. So the ability to enjoy one on fruits of one's toils and the opportunity of growth of an individual. So he argued that for an efficient effective political freedom and economic freedom was also necessary. So in the Hind Swaraj he said that anything that helped Gandhi to get rid of the grinding poverty for the masses, and that would be also in the same process by establishing Swaraj. So, given to the Gandhi's own economic freedom, he just did not identify the freedom that the laissez-faire economic actually talk about. He argued that no one has an absolute right of private property, because the right of property, according to him, was basically conditionally based to the well-being of the community. So, this actually shows the idea of trusteeship that actually came over here. So he held the view that only God has its own dominion on the goods, and those goods were just given to the humans as a trust. So we can see that while each person had its own rights, that was necessities of life, the fruits of his or her own toil, the rights were also basically surplus, which were governed by the principle of trusteeship and the needs for community. So, unlike Marx, who basically advocated on the class contradiction, annihilation of the capitalist class through a proper revolution, Gandhi talked about basically a harmonization of our class interest and annihilation of the evil rather than the evil doer. So basically, the revolution cannot be an very important or a very great solution for sustainable society, because it has to be built on the love, ethics, compassion also. So the capitalists are not just owner of wealth but a trustee or guardian of wealth. So the society of is actually the true owner of the wealth. So over here he actually clearly said that those who have surplus should actually voluntarily take the moral responsibility to distribute, donate, and take care of the destitute. So Sarvodaya basically means the upliftment of everyone, and the notion was inspired by the John Ruskin's book, that was the On to This Last. So the his idea of Sarvodaya was based on that every human being deserves a very decent conditions of life, and even the last and the least. So there were three central pillars of Sarvodaya according to John Ruskin. The first, there should be like good of an individual and the good of society is very complementary to each other. Second, the work of lawyer has the same value as a work of barber. Third, that the life of a labor and the craftsman also have a same value. So according to the Ruskin's idea, Gandhi added also the idea of the bread labor that was given by the Timothy, that the labor has been that every able-bodied person should go for simply because they were basically bodily creature. So whether the rich or poor, that every human being had to engage in some form of bread labor. So Gandhi also paid attention to the certain economic institution. So what India needed, that he famously argued, that is not just a mass production, but also the production of the by the masses that needs to be there. So he was talking about the khadi and the handmade crafts, and that it should be like produced by the masses. So it also held a better chance of success that if the villagers were encouraged to have a small agriculture properties, the village industry and the small scale industries actually should be promoted. So he was like very skeptical about the capacity of the modern enterprises as to promote the economic freedom. So he understood it. He was equally skeptical of the modern industrial technology that favored the well educated, the rich, who had the actual access to the vast capital. So Gandhi identified the two specific threats to the freedom by arising from a civilization that was driven by technology, and this was the first, that was the imperialistic aggression in the search of markets, and the second one was a domestic exploitation of the masses by those who had the control over the technology. Now let's talk about the Swaraj as a self-rule. So Gandhi's fourth and the most important Gandhian notion of Swaraj was basically based on the self-rule, which means a process of removing all the internal obstacles of the freedom. So when achieved, it was basically nothing other than the spiritual freedom. So according to Gandhi, the capacity of self-rule was more than any other capacity. So he distinguishes that the human from the brutes, that the self-rule basically presupposes the agency of spirit, which means individual atma. So which means that he was influence of the spirit, and the inner powers of our model like moral agent become very integrated, and such as he or she becomes very spiritual aware person, which is guided by our true self knowledge. So the spirit of higher self basically rules over the lower self of our passion. It was a process of self realization that needs to be achieved like after controlling our lower self or empirical ego. So the self rule is also known as a self transformative activities, because a spiritually integrated person is no longer a slave of his own passion, but is also able to rule himself and herself. So unlike the first three characteristics where Swaraj was conceptualized in the negative way, the self rule was an basically important integrant, basically indignant of that was like clearly indicates that there was an importance of our moral values which were very relative to the society. So he argued also that we need to like remove the colonial rule, which would automatically guarantee us our economic and political freedom. So this was, as we know, was hardly applicable to the fourth dimension of Swaraj, because the self rule basically means that it should be like achieved, self-achieved at the state of affairs rather than something that was granted by others. So Gandhian idea of Swaraj was basically self-rule. Basically, it seems to be based on the philosophical notion of Advaita. So which means the epistemology, the kingdom of our order on the dispensation of the Sava, which means the self or myself, or the truth that you and I are not just other but than one another. So according to Bidyu also, the characterizing the Swaraj was basically based on the widest possible connotation and not just merely self-determination in the politics. So Gandhi also sought to like articulate Swaraj in ideas and the political domination over the man by man. So it was also felt that it was one of the most tangible form of political sphere that can be easily replaced. So now the political subjection basically means a restraint of our outer life of a people, and the subtler domination that was exercised in the sphere of ideas by one culture over another. So the domination were all the more very serious in the consequence, and it continues to be remain like very relevant even after the overthrow of its political regime. So we can say over here that in order to attain the self rule, it was one of the purest sense that involves a challenge to the cultural subjection, and it penetrated by those like who were colonized as well. So Gandhi's definition of Swaraj, as we know, was the self-transformative device. It was also a attempt that was made for the well designed colonial endeavor of the cultural subjection, and it was basically likely to survive even after the conclusion of Indian rule was there due to the problem because the uncritical acceptance of the colonial modernity. So we can see that although the Gandhi basically derived his self rule from all the Indian tradition, one must remember he was at the same time he sought to like innovate the traditional notion of self rule. He sought to make that the self rule was compatible with another modern ideas of independence, individual freedom, and economic freedom. So he brought a major change in the Indian notion of spiritual freedom. So for according to the Indian tradition, we can see that spiritual was basically supposed to be apolitical, asocial, that was requiring a withdrawal from the socio-political world. But however, Gandhi just gave his own spiritual freedom a social and political profile. And the self rule needs to be like identified expression by practicing the virtue in private and public life. So the ability basically to act well and justly in the socio-political arena is basically a test of new meaning of self-rule. And spiritually, basically, free man should not practice the evils like untouchability, violence, and he should actually practice Swadeshi and control the palate. So the bread, labor, and the respect of all religion should be there. So we can see that the spiritual freedom or the self-rule brings social and political awareness also, and therefore it cannot just be like apolitical or asocial. Now let's talk about the Gandhi's theory of education. So Gandhi calls the conception of education as Nai Talim, which means that education is like one of the top constructive program in Gandhi's thinking to bring Sarvodaya. So for Gandhi, the education is a proper like a lifelong process. It's not just about receiving your formal education from your school, colleges, but the components of Nai Talim were basically first self-industrious attitude in the education, which is based on the concept of earn and learn. So education must include the idea of industries in education. So to make the students much more self-reliant in labor, and education should include the knowledge of agriculture, forestry, home science, and spinning, to the name of few. And second is the community living, which means living together in communities such as ashrams. Also, it was basically equated to the system of proper gurukul, which was prevalent in our country. So it was very necessary to curb all the excessive individualism. Third was the social service. So we can say that a man should understand his debt to the society in his proper making till he time he basically gets his own, he is able to stand on his own. So man should learn to basically give back or render the social services like through tree plantation, sanitization, nursing a sick person, and these are like some of the activities that can be adopted by him. Now let's talk about the holistic view. So education basically should bring a very holistic development in the individual, that it must actually integrate the ideas and actions. And education, according to him, was a was a integration of art, healthcare, social service, and in the harmony with the environment. Now let's talk about Gandhi's understanding of religion. As we know, Gandhi was a champion for respect of all religion should be there, and he strongly also believed that our teachings of all religion basically underlines some of the same truth of the world, that all religion teaches us to compassion, love, and piety. So he justifies the acceptance of all religion, and he tries to outline his notion of truth, which is basically very relative in nature. So according to him, there was a multiple truth basically representing the various views and standpoints. We can see that over here that every religion has its own set of ideas, values, beliefs, which represents another form of truth that must also be respected. So the Gandhian philosophy were formed on the basis of idea of equal respect, reverence to all religion and value system. Moreover, we can see that religion for Gandhi was a very personal thing, that all religions should taught to have the same moral values, and one should actually accept God things from outside. So I believe that the fundamental truth of all the great religions of the world, and I believe that if only we could actually, and all of us read the scriptures of different faiths from the standpoint of view of the followers of those faith, we should find out that they were at the bottom, and all one were basically were all helpful to the one another. This is what Gandhi said about religion. So now let's conclude this presentation on Gandhi. So we basically, if you want to talk about Gandhi and his thought, is basically reflected that how he actually showed a new language and paradigm of Indian national that guided the future courses of our action. So he basically sought to achieve the purity of means and ends. So he sought to basically mobilize the masses in terms of fighting against the colonial rule, devise them to form a peaceful protest against the unjust practices, and perpetuated at an individual as well as the social level. So we can see clearly that Gandhi's social and political thought was a multi-dimensional. So if its kernel was derived from the Indian civilization resources, its actual evolution was shaped by its experience in South Africa and India. So his political ideology was a radical departure from the past, in the sense that it was neither constitutional loyalism, of the moderates nor extremists, and of the revolutionary terrorists. So in this way, there was articulation of Indian nationalism. So he sought to basically incorporate the emerging constituencies of the nationalist politics that remained very peripheral by the bygone era. So Gandhi brought about an era of mass politics. So an analysis of his role of Mahatma in India's freedom struggle was clearly indicated by the changing nature of movement in response to the zealness or the participation of the various sections of the India's multicultural society.